2, 1, and we're live. Hi, everyone. I am back with Jackson. Operation Grizzly and Warbirds is over. They had a huge snowstorm, and everything was a little bit off, including the price support, but it's getting there. We've been assured by Warlord Games. So, hi, Jackson. Anything you want to start off with, or before we go to all the meta stuff, what actually happened at the event?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who attended Grizzly and Warbirds. Actually, we blew away the veterans organization that hosted us. They were wildly impressed with our candor and conduct and actually invited us back for next year already. They booked us down for 2025, Martin Luther King Day. So we made such a great impression with them. And Jeff and myself have learned a lot. And so 2025 is shaping up already to be a wonderful
Brilliant,
experience. So thank you
brilliant.
so much to the players for setting up setting up a great inaugural event, and I'm excited to make this a mainstay for the Michigan tournament scene.
You know what you really should do though? You should like make a medal and hand out like prizes because you survived the snowstorm and went to the event anyway.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that
Yeah,
you're kidding.
yeah, yeah. Anyways, I've put together a PowerPoint with the main results, which I'm going to share now, and we can talk through what happened. So here we go. I'm just going to go and go from the start. Right. So these are the results of Warbirds and Grizzly. So the event itself, the Warbirds event, that was 750 single generic platoon, 10 order dice maximum with some comp. There was a lot of things you could and couldn't do. You had 15 players, was that right?
Yeah, so I ended up playing both days ended up requiring double duty from the ringer. So I played ringer at Warbirds and Jeff played ringer at Grizzly.
Yeah. 3 games and yeah. So 15 players for 7.50 750. Um and this was just like it was the day before Grizzly, so it was sort of an introduction startup tournament. Did
The
it
day
feel like
after.
a
It was
no,
Sunday.
sorry, it was Sunday, right? Did it feel different to Grizzly?
Actually, yeah, surprisingly enough. So we had a fair amount of carryover of players who played in Grizzly and also played in Warbirds, but we had a variety of people who only came up for the one day, and they were all new players. It was pretty exciting to see. Um, Many folks, this was actually, we'll see in the results that this weekend basically was many players' first competitive tournament, which I thought was really cool. Some of them played in Grizzly, got their butt totally handed to them,
Yeah.
and then played in Warbirds, learned from their mistakes a little bit, which I thought was funny. Like normally the beginner tournament, you would expect that they are learning all their games and things like that, but we had a fun switch.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the players ended up really excited, and I thought it was kind of cool. The folks who maybe didn't do so well in Grizzly turned around and absolutely crushed it the next day in Warbirds. So I was glad to see that the podium was shared by all.
That is so brilliant. I mean that development, to see that happening live over a single weekend, just so cool. So cool. Right. So these were our predictions, right? Um, and we mostly had the same ones, basically. That Ben C with the Skirmish Americans would win. Christian with his mixed bag Americans would come second, and David come third, or they would be like 1, 2, 3. David had veterans and Stewart again Americans. So what actually happened was that Franklin, Joe, and David. Um, so we were only on point with 1 in 3. Um, could you maybe talk us a little bit through Franklin and Joe?
Well, so
Why?
these were actually my
Yeah.
predictions. These were not the live results.
Oh, so yeah,
Yeah,
that's
these are
right.
still our prediction pages.
I can't remember who of us was it. Me that had Ben, Christian, and David, and you had Franklin, Joe, and David. That
Yes.
was it. That was it. Right. Um, So we agreed on David. That was it. Yeah, that's it. Right. Now the results was quite different. That was what I remembered. They
Yes.
they sorry for the mess up there. So Isaac came first. He had faux tank Germans, so he had mechanized Germans, and then Ben C with his skirmish Americans. So you'll notice that I had Ben C skirmish Americans in the top three, which 1 point for me, I guess. Brienne came third with her Death Star Soviets. Way out of bound for me. That I had not
Yeah.
seen that
With
coming.
her IS-2
With an
in
IS-2,
750 points.
that should not be able to happen,
Oh,
but it did. Uh, well done. And then David C came fourth. We both had thought that that would happen, and David N came fourth again, tied fourth with Germans. So, what happened?
yeah. So I'll go over. We'll start off with Isaac because he ended up winning overall, and he actually submitted a list to you.
Yep,
I remember
he
we
did.
were talking about the what was that? The Fortress Budapest platoon, the
Mm,
double Lukes. That
yep.
was his list in Grizzly, and so he basically took a reduced version of that in Warbirds.
Mm,
And I think you could really see where he learned from his mistakes here, because overall I think he placed around fairly low in Grizzly, maybe
mm,
like bottom third or
mm.
something like that, and then skyrockets, catapults to number one overall in day two. So really came in awesome, which I was really proud of him.
Yeah,
Uh, and especially because I saw you talked about it in your list review. His list
did.
has no anti-tank,
Yep.
and when you're going up against maybe a Tiger, maybe an
Mm,
IS-2,
yep.
maybe even a humble Stuart, you can say, oh
Mm.
well, if I only have Panzerfaust and a Panzer II, this can be a really tough sell.
That
And
can really be difficult.
yeah, so I think he ended up really turning it around and played the missions very well, because he had a lot of half tracks and
Mm,
trucks and things like that. Even
yep.
at 750, I think he had two or three.
Mm,
Um, so he ended up doing extremely well. Ben, same deal.
yep.
Um, he ended up having a very solid performance on both days, and we called him out. He had a strong list, knew how to play the mission, but again, this was his first tournament.
Mm,
So props to him for
yep.
he is no longer green.
Nope.
He has definitely been promoted. He is not
at at
considered a
at
beginner
at
anymore.
all my rookie tournaments, if you win a rookie tournament that I'm hosting, I will immediately upgrade you to regular. Uh, so so yeah, they are definitely no longer beginners. That is true. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Brienne, I actually had the privilege of playing her. She drew the ringer,
Mm.
uh, round one, and so we ended up battling. Her IS-2 smoked my Tiger. It was not even funny. I thought it was wow, one pin. She didn't even penetrate it.
Yep.
I was so sad.
Yep.
She hits my Tiger, puts a pin on it, and then
Yeah.
for the next 4 turns, I fail my order check with one pin on it.
No.
I
No.
learned I learned the hard way, probably from your explanation. It's like, okay, don't take a heavy tank in a
Yeah.
low points game. It's
No.
never going to get its uses.
It's not. But
Um,
you were the ringer. You weren't there to win anything, so it really didn't matter.
yeah, I,
Um.
s- I still had fun. Turn 7, I ended up doing some damage, but it
Okay.
took until turn 7 for me to unlock the value of that thing. So it was brutal. But no, yeah, she carried. We ended up drawing round one, and she carried to win her remaining 2 games, which I was
Mm.
really impressed with, because she was also a very new player, um, and so it
So
was really cool.
basically,
Actually,
first, second, and third were newer or new-ish players. That is
yes,
brilliant.
yeah, David Clark, same deal. This was his first tournament, although
Mm.
his list was definitely. I thought his list was extremely competitive for
Very,
for
very
be
strong.
for
Yeah.
being a new player. But so that was interesting to see. But he ended up playing very well. Him and David Noggle tied for fourth,
Mm,
and David N with his Germans, he actually took a flak 88, which I thought was really fun. He took a really interesting Blitzkrieg German list,
mm,
with like motorcycle engineers was day one with his French, and
mm.
then today he took an 88. And game 3, I heard it from across the room. he so remember the mission where your lieutenant has to go find
Yeah.
somebody, the lost
Yeah.
squad?
Yeah.
His 88 went on ambush and
Mm-hmm.
rolls the 6 against his opponent's lieutenant.
Oh.
And so the 88 just
Boom.
absolutely blasts this lieutenant off the table, preventing his opponent from scoring any points by finding the squad. And so that,
Ouch.
while unfortunate, really cracked me up like that. uh,
Shooting at individual enemies with an 88. That is insane.
but anyway, it was an
Brilliant.
excellent day, and I'm glad to see that all the new players ended up walking away with prizes. Maybe those who didn't do so well day one ended up coming back in spades and crushing it
Yeah.
day two.
Unfortunately, that means that the challenge that you guys had of bringing a heavy tank, it didn't really pan out for the veteran players, right?
Well, that was kind of the idea. Like I explained to the veteran players who joined that the idea was to train up new players and to
Mm,
ultimately teach them the game.
yeah.
And so the veteran players got all their licks in, got all like competed for the podium and grand prizes on Saturday,
Yeah.
and then they came in more to teach game day two, teach the game day two. And I think that was incredible because
Yeah.
everybody said, okay, we can set aside the ego, or we competed
Yeah.
yesterday,
Yeah.
we can now relax and play today and have fun. And so
Brilliant.
shout out to all the veterans who maybe took a bit of a licking or didn't see the podium on day two, but all the new players really learned a lot, and every single person not only maxed out their sportsmanship score, which I was incredibly thankful for, um, they all want to come back next year. And that's what
Brilliant.
it's all about. It's growing the
Yep.
hobby. It's
Yep.
making players memorable and tell stories. So yeah, thank you to everybody, both inexperienced and veterans, for coming out to play regardless of where you stood.
Brilliant. 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 Right. So that was the result of Warbirds. Then the day before we had the prizes. I have the prizes for Warbirds as well. So best painted was Joe's US Army with an M3 half track. I tried to find pictures of it. I couldn't. Um, Best sportsman, that was Henry Sada who got that. Best battlefield, that was Gerald's French
Hmm.
Village, which I do think I have some pictures of down here somewhere. And then the Purple Heart. What was the Purple Heart given for? That was
That that
Christian's
that's your
U.S.
that's your
Marine Corps.
European wooden spoon. That's the so the Purple Heart is
Yeah,
the American medal
version
in
of that. Yeah,
yeah, it's the medal in the U.S. Armed Forces for if
yeah,
you come home injured
yeah,
in
yeah,
battle.
yeah.
So that's what I did. Instead of it being the wooden spoon, you get a medal
Brilliant.
and you get the Purple Heart.
Right. Love that. So, and then we had Grizzly. Um, we had 1,000 points single theater platoon, so you had to take a theater platoon. There was some comp, some changing of what you could and couldn't do. You had 21 players at the end, and you play 3 games, so a little bit more in the standard competitive size and format. With the single biggest caveat for me is that it's theaters only, so that really changes up what you can and cannot do, and there are some really interesting special rules that you can get in some theaters. So
Hmm.
we had predicted the following. We had predicted that Ben, with his skirmish Americans, Robin with his horde Japanese, Sean with his Schützendak, Pat with his what I call camping dak, so like backline holding with a lot of reach, and Christian with his mixed bag Americans. That was my predictions, I think. And then yours were Joe with his greatest hits Soviets, so like two of everything that was good. Ben with his skirmish Americans, Pat with his camping Deutsche Afrika Call, Robin with his Horde Americans, and Isaac with his Panzer Recon.
Yeah, and
Right.
this was the big reveal here, but I think General Winter wins because 4 of the 5 people on our list didn't show up because of the snow. so
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 we had,
maybe we count that and say, okay, they're
let's
still
count
intact
that.
because they technically didn't play.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ben, Robin, and Sean unfortunately couldn't make it because of the snow, and that really threw a monkey wrench into our
It
calculations.
did. It did. especially because Ben and Robin were on both of our lists of people we thought would come in the top. So the results was the two satyrs, Henry and Jason, in first and second, Franklin in third, Anthony in fourth, and then Ben C with his skirmish Americans in fifth. Now the biggest surprise for me was the amount of Death Star units, like the Yak Panther and the Hellcat Americans, who also had veteran Death Stars, like huge units of veterans. That was a complete surprise for me. Also because look at the order dice of these two players here with Anthony and Henry's lists. That was a 10 order dice and a 9 order dice list that ended up in top 5.
Yeah,
I
absurdly
wouldn't have,
low, even for American
yeah,
standards. Like,
even for
yeah.
American standards. And in European standard, it's insane. I mean, you would never see that. So something happened for these players that really made them work. Do you know what happened for them?
Yeah, so I'll start off here at the top. So Henry, if you noticed, he got best sportsman in Warbirds.
It
He
did.
actually came in dead last in
Yep.
Warbirds. And props to him because he is a really good teacher. He focused on teaching the new players how to really rock it.
Mm.
But yeah, I was as surprised as you seeing him. He was the only player at the event to go 3-0.
Yeah.
And he took the veteran paratroopers with the Hellcat, but he didn't take the Market Garden selector, and so I
He
was
did not.
extremely surprised. He could have taken the British Free Air Observer. He could have taken exceptional training on all of
Mhm.
his troops instead of stubborn. Like, he didn't really use the theater selectors to the best of his ability, but that didn't matter. He still
Yep.
went 3-0 with the Hellcat, with all this stuff,
Yeah.
and with, like, with a heavy machine gun team and
Mm.
some really fluffy picks,
Yeah.
and
It
still
just goes
just
to show
crushed.
how much you can actually, if you're a good player, how much the list matters to you, or how much playing what you feel like you are good at matters to you. I mean, for Henry, this was clearly he picked what he felt like this is what I want, and then went for it, and it worked. Brilliant.
Yeah, and Jason as well comes in
Mm.
with the double artillery observer
Yeah.
USSR list.
Yeah.
Um, limited, like, guards, a couple of transports. Frankly, I didn't think that he was going to do nearly as well as he did. And then he turns it around. That double artillery strike, I was walking around because I was doing admin that day, and I
Mm-hmm.
saw the absolute pain that can
Yeah.
inflict, like up to 6 pins plus a possible howitzer hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just was not
It's
pretty for
it's
anybody that
really
had to play.
really bad. It is
um,
really bad.
but
Yeah.
Yeah, so Jason and Henry, actually, quick note here. They are of father and son gaming. They are father and son. Henry is actually still in high school, and he got
Mm.
best overall. So ended up crushing it, and he's an extremely smart kid, and I was really really happy to see both
Yeah.
him and Jason do very well with their lists. Franklin came in a close third. He barely missed out on best allies,
Mm.
just because of he ended up getting his list in late, so he didn't get the
Yeah.
early submission points. But him and
Which is
Jason
also, by the
actually had
way,
the same
the
record.
reason that I can't show you what was in his list. I know he played Soviets, right?
Yeah,
But
so it
I
was
I
M3.
have
It
no
was
idea
M3
what was in
scout
them.
cars,
Yeah.
like guards with scout cars, a bunch of submachine guns and Panzerfausts and
Mm.
things. So that's what he ended up taking, is this gun, stuff like that. But very mobile, half track spam.
Yeah.
Um, he ended up doing very well. Got the same record as Jason, but because he didn't submit his list early, I couldn't
Ooh.
give him the credit for points, which it happens. But
Yeah.
he still ended up doing very well. Got third place. And then, yeah, best Axis, the Jag Panther, one of my favorite lists to
Yeah.
have seen at all, and the fact that he did so well. So it was exactly split about, like, I think we had 12 allies and 12 Axis. So it was
Mm.
anybody's game to get best Axis or best allied. And Anthony, with his last levy, takes it. I was so impressed with him.
It shouldn't be able to happen, but it. I mean, Anthony, God damn it, your respect to you, sir. That is amazing. That is amazing. I mean, a Yak Panther is so expensive. It's so expensive. Yeah, you can't kill it, but you have 9 order dice in the list. I mean, he must have struggled. He must have struggled at times. 9 order dice against a 13 order dice list. That must be difficult.
Yeah, well, plus especially like every single anti-tank thing in the opponent's army is going after that tank.
All aiming at
It's
it.
gonna get pinned. It's gonna get
Yeah.
everything. But
Yeah.
actually, yeah, I mean, I wasn't walking. I was walking around a bit, but I didn't quite notice his games late. Like, of course, game three, I was checking over just to make sure to
Mm,
see things that were going on.
mm,
But game one, I actually threw him and the other last levy or the other Soviet last levy player.
yeah.
He played against Joe V on the Reichstag table. So I thought that was
Nice.
super fun. So they ended up
Super
playing
super thematic.
yeah, so they ended up playing a very thematic round one, and he ended up doing extremely well against my top prediction. I thought
Yeah.
Joe V with his CeeLo Heights list was gonna
Yes, that was a
crush,
strong list. That was a
and
really strong list.
Anthony was able to emerge victorious, or at least with a draw from it. He came out with it with a unbroken record, and that
That
just
is,
goes to show that he knows
yeah,
what he's doing with his army.
he really must. Now, Anthony, if you watch this, please contact me because I want to be able to tell people what it was that you did with that Yak Panther. Normally, I've said it many times on this channel. Death Stars don't work. I've even made whole videos on it. Death Stars don't work. Don't take the heavy tanks. And what do? You go and prove me wrong. God damn it. Uh,
He'll probably he'll it'll mean the world to him to
yeah.
that you said he watches the videos all the time, and he said I can't wait for this shout out. So
Yeah.
so that was funny. Actually, yeah, Anthony got best access, and his wife Brienne
Yeah.
placed third place in Warbirds. So they both actually came away with prizes on the weekend, which I thought was super
Nice.
cool.
Very, very cool. And then Ben, of course, we had predicted him that he would do well with that Skirmish American. It's just a very, very solid list. A little low on order dice, but so yeah.
But again, this was his first tournament, so
Yeah.
like you say in a lot of your videos, it's the list only takes you so far, right? I
It
mean,
only takes you so far.
clearly, as we see, it's
Yeah.
the generalship of the player that
Yeah.
may come in, even if your list is a 3 or a 2, even
Yeah.
according to your scale, you can still come away with a podium spot.
It all depends on how much what you do with it. I mean, because you can make huge mistakes having the most cheesy and hardcore army with 16 order dice and Gurkhas everywhere and whatever, and you can still make huge mistakes and just lose the game. So yeah, very well done for these people. Very, very well done, and a nice and interesting result. That was way off for us. I mean, we have no idea what we're talking about. Predictions.
Seriously, yeah,
Whatever.
why do we even do that video?
Why do we even bother? Why do we even
If it's
bother?
gonna be so wrong every
This,
time
yeah,
we do this.
yeah, 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 yeah. Right. So, shout out with the prizes. The best painted was David's French. Best sportsman was Rusty Parker's Japanese. Best battlefield was Jeff's Japanese airfield, and the Purple Heart was Christian again with the
Yeah,
Chicago Unicorn.
if you notice, Christian got the Purple Heart both days, and he
He
was a
did.
super sport about it. I felt a little bad with him. He's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I thought I was gonna come away with a prize, at least something. I didn't expect this one, both times." I went to dinner with him on Sunday,
Yeah.
and he was happy that he played, but he was
Hmm.
like, "Man, I should have done better."
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Um,
But it always sucks, especially if you have like two times in a row where you end up losing a lot. It does suck, and I do hope that he takes it as an opportunity to learn and to improve his game. Um, and I hope he got some nice prices along with that Purple Heart, because I mean it's a nice thing to be able to give nice things to the people who've had rough weekends. I mean, the people at the top, they're fine. They take away their diploma and they're like, yay! But the people at the bottom who's had like loss upon loss upon loss, yeah. So I hope
yeah,
he picked out
he
something
definitely
nice from
did.
he picked out something nice from the prize pool.
Yeah, he got a good pile.
Yeah,
So we're all good. And he actually um he's gonna be in for Adepticon. He's gonna come up and I registered for Adepticon for all those
mm,
events. So I'm excited to see a lot of familiar faces and many new ones come March. So I'm excited to see
brilliant.
what Andrew and the Chicago Dice team have cooked up for us in March. I can't wait for it.
Right. So that was it. But you're already thinking about next year, aren't you?
Yeah, so definitely I feel like I burned myself out. I hosted a whopping 5 or 6 tournaments this past year,
Yeah.
and so I am going to take a bit of a step back. I'm going to be hosting one in September
Mm.
in Port Clinton, Ohio. Cricket. They asked me back to do it again,
Yeah.
as well as this one, Grizzly and Warbirds. The hall has asked us to come back again, and so I'll maybe do some other tournaments here and there. I have a combat patrol tournament coming up in February, but that's more small.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, all in all, I'm super excited. What's the next for the IGE scores? Because I know I submitted them to you.
Yes, we are going to try and collect as much as we can. We are still working on how to actually get an Excel spreadsheet to do the work for us, which hasn't worked out yet, but it's getting there. So basically, your scores for Warbirds and for Grizzly will be the first ones in the IGE League score. So yeah, congratulations on
Yes.
that.
Yeah, that'll be
Right.
that'll be fun to see how we stack up with everyone. I quite
Yep.
enjoy the idea of I like the idea of the project.
Mm.
And I can't wait to see what happens with it. And then yeah, what at the time of this recording, the World Championship is next week, right? Or in 2 weeks.
Next
It's
weekend,
soon.
yeah. So that will be the second one going in. Yeah. And if anyone else wants to send me results from your tournaments, I will collect them and start typing them in once we have an Excel spreadsheet for it. So we can start seeing like an international league where we can compare people. So, yeah. Right. Jackson, thank you so much for coming on again. Congratulations on a well held event. And I do hope you take some much needed vacation from all the TOing. Right.
Thank you. I definitely will. I appreciate you doing this video series with me. I know I bother you every time I have a big tournament, but it seems like we have a good discussion every
We
time,
do.
and
Yep.
seems like we learn a lot from the
Every
differences
single
between
time.
competitive bolt action in Europe versus competitive in US.
Yes.
So I'm glad to have good discussion with that. So thank you so much for having me on the channel, and I look forward to the next time we get to talk. And yeah,
Right.
best of luck at the World Championship.
Thank you so much. Right. That was it from us today, and we will see you next time, I guess.
See you guys.